Imagine your local weather forecaster predicting a blizzard that will turn into an 80-degree, low humidity, blue sky beach day. A suitable punishment would be splashing water in the nearest ice bath. Maybe I should look for my glasses. In June, when Bruins fired then head coach Bruce Cassidy, it was a move that, in my analysis, signaled end of an era and closing of Bruins Stanley Cup window. I explained why in a story and gave a straight statement on Twitter. The Bruins championship window is closed. M8LJIGVR00. Fluto Shinzawa, June 7, 2022. But instead of closing the window, it opened all the way. The 2022-23 Bruins are so far and away best team in the league that expectations should be postseason wins, not just series wins. If you want it wrong, my view was a case study for cornering the market on wrong. I would be more right if I wrote that it is black and white, night is day. Then why couldn't I see it? Looking back, perhaps main factor that I failed to understand was the depth at which Cassidy's dilemma took root. In organization, the former coach became so pale in his submission to the players that dissatisfaction and underperformance were common. Brandon Carlo, Connor Clifton, Jake DeBrusk, and Trent Frederick were fighting to find their way amidst Cassidy's direct approach. In the end, Cassidy didn't have many allies left. At time, the players responded to Jim Montgomery's arrival with a collective gasp and a slack of shoulders. Their new coaches had similar dimensions of hockey acumen as their previous bosses. Where Montgomery and Cassidy differed was in the way they shared their insights with the players. They noticed right away, Montgomery's sunnier interactions will result in freer, lighter players followed by a boost in performance. The first of many. It was an insightful transaction by General Manager Don Sweeney. Another reason I highlighted performance this season was the state of squad when Sweeney left. Cassidy, Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci were unsigned. Surgeons Brad Marchand, Charlie McAvoy and Matt Grzelcyk still had fresh incisions on their hips and shoulders. Hampus Lindholm came out little over a month after concussion that drove him crazy. It was unknown whether David Pastrnak wanted to stay long-term. Pavel Zacha was a devil. DeBrusk's trade request was still active. GM's roster reinforcement was artistic. First, he made the environment pleasant enough for Bergeron and Krejci to return. The tricky part is how he convinced the first two centers to sign for an average annual total of $3.5 million. It's a ridiculous amount. By comparison, consider Austin Matthews and John Tavares occupying $22,640,250 of the Maple Leafs' total AAV. Sweeney threw the box down the road, adding $4.5 million in performance bonuses to Bergeron and Krejci's combined, which may have to be applied as excess penalties on next year's ledgers. The Bruins won't care if they win the cup this year. The top pennies Sweeney budgeted for Bergeron and Krejci allowed him to build around the pivots so heavily that the squad could explode. He believed that Nick Foligno, who scored just 2 goals in 2021-22, was worth staying in a $3.8 million AAV rather than buying it. Sweeney bought Zacha, a critical multi-position forward, for Eric Haula. Sweeney followed up by filling the remaining vacancies with a trade for Dmitry Orlov and Garnet Hathaway on February 23. Then, when Taylor Hall and Foligno fell short with less than a week before the March 3 trade line, GM struck again, adding Tyler Bertuzzi from Detroit. In total, the Bruins added $11.35 million to their annual border hits. These were mitigated by keeping the paycheck and placing Hall in the long-term casualty reserve. But additions were made possible by how little the Bruins had to commit to Bergeron and Krejci. Meanwhile, Sweeney handed Zacha. He re-signed Pastrnak into a $90 million blockbuster movie. He swept away the past with DeBrusk, who scored a career-high 44 points. The acquisition of Lindholm and the signing of Linus Ullmark look like big slams. The result is a list with no weaknesses. It includes superstars like Pasternak and complementary players like Hall, Bertuzzi, and Charlie Coyle. The final three could form the number 3 spot for the playoffs until Hall recovers from his lower body injury. Their collective AAV is $27.25 million. By contrast, Marchand, Bergeron and DeBrusk's income statement is $12.625 million. This snapshot tells the story of how deep the Bruins have and how efficiently it pays off Sweeney's best talent. But the 2022-23 Bruins aren't just about offensive firepower and defensive stinginess. They unlocked the ability to win when they didn't give their best. They know how to win. Montgomery said, "They run this so well that even when don't play a game and we play our C game, get B very well." This is a credit to the leadership core. A team keeps the Bruins up at night. The Hurricanes, Carolina's speed, aggression and relentlessness on puck have given Bruins trouble over past 2 seasons, including last year's postseason first round when Hurricanes beat Bruins 4-3. But Carolina is in danger without dynamic strong forward Andrei Svechnikov, who has been absent for a year due to a knee injury. It looks like everything is lining up for hockey in Boston in June. Contrary to what you may have read elsewhere,